They rise out of the desert like mountains carved not by nature, but by human hands, impossibly symmetrical, eerily eternal. For over 4,000 years, the pyramids of Giza have defied wind, sand, and time itself. They stand as if mocking mortality, their sharp lines still piercing the sky when countless empires around them have already crumbled into dust. To gaze upon them is to confront a paradox. How did a civilization so ancient, with tools of copper and stone, build monuments that seem designed to last forever? Mainstream history has an answer, one often repeated in textbooks. These were tombs, elaborate resting places for Egypt's god-kings, the pharaohs, great structures for great rulers. Yet when the ancient historian Herodotus first visited Egypt in the 5th century BCE, he recorded tales that suggested something far stranger. Stories of labyrinths hidden beneath the sand, of secret chambers filled not with gold, but with knowledge. Whispers that the pyramids themselves were not mere tombs at all, but machines of eternity. What unsettles the curious mind is not what has been found inside the pyramids, but what hasn't. For all their scale and majesty, no definitive evidence of a royal burial has ever been discovered in the Great Pyramid. No sarcophagus with a mummy sealed in ceremonial wrappings. No inscriptions declaring ownership of Khufu, the pharaoh to whom the Great Pyramid is officially attributed. Instead, only fragments. An empty granite box, shafts too narrow for human passage, and alignments so mathematically precise they baffle modern architects. The question then lingers, uncomfortably. Were these truly tombs? Or did they serve a purpose beyond what history dares to admit? Even in antiquity, the pyramids were already a mystery. Plato spoke of Egypt as a land where secrets older than Greece itself were locked away. Later Arab scholars described passages beneath the structures, stretching like veins underground. Modern scans have confirmed something equally tantalizing: hidden voids, cavities, and anomalies, deep within the stones, spaces yet to be explored. What lies inside them, no one can say with certainty. Yet perhaps the greatest riddle is not their construction, but their intention. Why build something meant to last longer than dynasties, longer than kingdoms, perhaps even longer than memory itself? Could the pyramids have been designed to outlive time, carrying with them a message, a warning, or a key meant for future civilizations to discover? Look closer, and the illusion of simple tombs begins to crumble. The Great Pyramid alone is aligned to true north with astonishing accuracy, deviating by less than a fraction of a degree. Its base covers over 13 acres, each massive stone block fitted so tightly that even today a razor blade can barely pass between them. The sheer mathematics of the design, ratios echoing the dimensions of the earth, alignments pointing to the stars, has led some to argue that the pyramids were more than monuments. They were instruments. And instruments always have a function. From Herodotus to Napoleon scholars, from Victorian adventurers to modern Egyptologists, generations have stared at these giants of stone and tried to decode them. Some see only death, burial, and ritual. Others glimpse a more haunting possibility, that the pyramids were not made to honor the dead, but to preserve life itself. That their creators sought to defeat the inevitable, to wrestle with the puzzle of immortality. The pharaohs declared themselves gods, but even gods feared time. Could these monuments have been constructed as part of a quest to transcend it? The Egyptians obsessed over eternity, not merely in art and religion, but in engineering and design. Temples and tombs were carved with texts meant to guide souls through the afterlife. But the pyramids may have been something different. Perhaps they were not guides for the soul, but devices for the body, or even the civilization itself. For while other cultures built monuments to remember their kings, Egypt built mountains of stone that would endure for ages. That endurance was not accidental. It was intentional, almost as if they were designed not for the people of their own time, but for us, those who would come millennia later, looking back across the abyss of history, still unable to fully understand. And so, the pyramids remain. Not tombs, not temples, not palaces, but enigmas. Vast puzzles of stone that guard their secrets with silence. They provoke the same awe they did thousands of years ago, when the first travelers from Greece, Rome, and beyond stood in their shadows and wondered. Perhaps that is their true function, to unsettle, to make us question what we know about the past and about ourselves, to whisper across the desert winds that history may not be as simple, nor as certain as we believe. The puzzle of immortality is not merely the story of pharaohs seeking eternal life. It is the story of a civilization daring to leave behind something indestructible, something that would force future generations to ask questions they may not want to answer. Were the pyramids really monuments of the dead or monuments for the living? What they mean and why they endure is a mystery as alive today as it was when the first stone was set in place. And it is only by entering their shadow and confronting the enigma directly that we may begin to understand what the ancients truly sought to preserve. They rise from the sands like mountains carved by human hands, yet every line, every angle, whispers of a secret that goes beyond mere stone. The Great Pyramid of Giza is made of roughly 2.3 million blocks, each weighing anywhere from 2 to 80 tons. To this day, scholars debate how such stones were transported, lifted, and aligned with such precision. Some argue for sheer manpower and ingenuity. Others sense a blueprint that modern understanding still struggles to decipher. The pyramid aligns with the four cardinal directions: true north, true south, true east, and true west, with an accuracy that would challenge even advanced instruments today. Its deviation is so slight, mere fractions of a degree, that one must ask, how could a civilization of copper tools and wooden sleds chart the earth so flawlessly? Was it chance, mastery, or something more concealed, passed down from a source long forgotten? Hidden within its core, narrow passageways twist and turn, seemingly leading nowhere, as though designed not for the dead, but for the stars. Some of these shafts extend outward, angling sharply until they pierce the pyramid's face and aim toward the sky. Modern studies reveal that these channels align not randomly, but with celestial bodies. Orion's belt, associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth, and Sirius, the brightest star, bound to Isis, the goddess of magic. Were these shafts mere ventilation for the tomb of a king, or cosmic corridors linking Earth to the heavens? Even the term air vents feels inadequate, almost misleading. Why carve such precise tunnels through millions of tons of limestone if their purpose was simply to allow breath into a chamber? No, the orientation suggests something else. A cosmic map encoded in stone, an architectural message spanning millennia. The builders seem to speak through alignment, geometry, and silence, rather than through words. As archaeologists probe deeper, concealed doors appear within these shafts, some made of polished limestone slabs with copper fittings embedded within. These are not crude constructions. They are intentional barriers, secrets placed deliberately. Behind one such door, a cavity was discovered, an empty pocket of space, its purpose still unknown. To the untrained eye, it may seem unremarkable, but within the silence of the pyramid, an empty chamber feels like a riddle left unsolved. Mathematics itself appears woven into the blueprint. The height of the Great Pyramid, multiplied by 1,000 million, approximates the distance from Earth to the Sun. Its base perimeter, divided by twice its height, reveals a value close to pi, centuries before the Greeks would define it. Was this knowledge stumbled upon, or was it a deliberate encoding of universal constants into stone? It is as if the builders were not simply stacking rock, but etching the laws of the cosmos into an eternal monument. For some, the pyramid resembles a giant machine, a resonator, an energy device, or even a time capsule designed to preserve not a body, but a system of knowledge. The placement of chambers, the slope of passageways, and the dimensions themselves suggest intentional design beyond funerary need. The king's chamber, with its granite blocks weighing over 50 tons each, lies at the heart of this structure, like the engine of a vast mechanism. Granite, rich in quartz, vibrates when struck. Could it be that the chamber was designed not only to house, but to resonate, to channel energy in ways we do not yet comprehend? Even more astonishing is the discovery of the so-called Big Void, a hidden cavity above the Grand Gallery revealed in recent years through cosmic ray imaging. It stretches over 100 feet long, a silent hollow untouched for 4,000 years. No one knows its function. Was it a relieving space, a structural necessity, or was it a chamber meant to conceal something so vital that it was hidden away, unreachable, until the technology of our era could finally glimpse it? The further one studies the pyramid, the clearer it becomes that its design was not accidental. It is not just the resting place of Khufu, nor simply a monument of power. Every alignment, every chamber, every concealed shaft speaks of a system, a knowledge encoded in limestone, granite, and starlight. Perhaps it was a message intended not for the people of its time, but for those who would come after, those with the curiosity and tools to decode what was left behind. If so, then the pyramid is not just architecture, it is authorship. The builders were writing, but instead of ink and parchment, they wrote with stone and shadow, scale and proportion. And though dynasties collapsed, languages changed, and empires rose and fell, their writing endures. The question that lingers is whether we are reading it correctly, or whether we still see only fragments of the message, trapped within the silent geometry of an ancient blueprint. The Great Pyramid does not reveal its secrets easily. It does not shout. It whispers. But those who listen closely sense that it was never meant to be just a tomb. It was meant to be a bridge between earth and sky, between time and eternity, between humanity and something far greater. And as long as it stands, the riddle of its blueprint remains, daring each generation to look closer, to measure more carefully, to wonder what the ancients truly knew, and why they chose to inscribe their knowledge in the most enduring medium of all, stone. Beneath the golden sands of Giza lies a world unseen. For centuries, the eyes of explorers and scholars were fixed on the towering pyramids, their gaze drawn upward toward monuments that scrape the heavens. Yet, it is beneath the earth, in the silent depths below, where secrets older than the stones themselves may be concealed. Archaeologists have long known that the Giza Plateau is more than a graveyard of kings. It is a labyrinth. Hidden chambers, sealed passageways, and deep shafts cut into the bedrock whisper of an architecture, not built for spectacle, but for secrecy. One of the most enigmatic among these is the so-called Osiris shaft. Discovered in stages and buried beneath centuries of sand and neglect, the shaft plunges into the bedrock like a wound into the earth. It is not a mere pit, but a multi-level descent, each layer revealing another threshold into darkness. The deepest chamber is water-filled, an eternal pool in which stone sarcophagi rest like black ships adrift. Scholars labeled it a tomb, perhaps dedicated to Osiris, lord of the underworld. Yet, the absence of royal inscriptions and the stark austerity of its design hint at something different, something that resists the neat categories of dynastic Egypt. Arab chronicles from the medieval period speak of vast subterranean vaults beneath the pyramids, halls of unimaginable size, filled with books of ancient wisdom, machines of strange design, and treasures untouched by time. These accounts were dismissed for generations as myth or exaggeration, the fanciful tales of scribes who mistook legends for truth. But the rediscovery of structures like the Osiris shaft forces a reconsideration. Could those chroniclers have been recording echoes of something real, memories passed down from a time when such chambers were still accessible? Geophysical surveys in recent decades have added fuel to the fire. Subsurface scans reveal anomalies, voids, cavities, and networks that suggest far more lies beneath the plateau than what has been officially documented. Some researchers argue these are natural fissures or flaws in the limestone bedrock. Yet the precision of certain alignments, perfectly rectangular voids, evenly distributed patterns, suggest deliberate construction. If so, then beneath Giza lies not a random scattering of caves, but an organized infrastructure, carefully planned and purposefully concealed. The possibility raises unsettling questions. Why would such chambers be hidden? If they were tombs, why bury them beneath tombs already meant to immortalize the dead? If they were treasuries, why leave them unmarked, invisible even to history? The answer may lie in their function. Ancient Egyptian cosmology was steeped in layers of meaning. Life above, death below, eternity all around. To descend beneath the earth was not merely to enter a grave, but to traverse the liminal space between worlds. Perhaps these chambers were designed as places of initiation, where priests or chosen adepts entered the symbolic underworld, enacting death to be reborn into knowledge, forbidden to the uninitiated. The water-filled chamber at the base of the Osiris shaft deepens the mystery. Water, in nearly every ancient culture, was the boundary of life and death, the medium of transformation. To descend into stone and emerge into water may not have been a hazard of construction, but an intentional ritual design. Imagine the initiate, lowered by torchlight into the black depths, the echo of dripping stone, the suffocating silence, until finally the earth gave way to still water, a mirror of eternity, waiting to swallow all reflection. If these were initiation chambers, then their concealment would make sense. Such knowledge could not be entrusted to the masses, nor even to kings. It belonged to a priesthood whose power lay in guarding truths too dangerous for ordinary hands. Truths, perhaps, about origins, about the stars, about cycles of time that stretched back long before the rise of dynastic Egypt. Some fringe researchers argue that the underground infrastructure may predate the pyramids themselves. They point to erosion patterns, the enigmatic precision of the bedrock cuts, and the lack of inscriptions as clues that these were not funerary but functional, perhaps remnants of a civilization older than Egypt, whose legacy the pharaohs inherited and reinterpreted. If this is true, then the Osiris shaft and its kin are not just Egyptian monuments, they are portals to an age erased from memory. Legends of hidden cities beneath the desert add to this allure. Tales of corridors stretching for miles, linking pyramid to pyramid, of libraries sealed away in stone, of entire worlds carved beneath the sands. Such visions have often been dismissed as fantasy, but the silence of the authorities in the face of new geophysical findings only fuels suspicion. What has been found? What lies behind those walls of sand and stone that remain unexcavated? The silence itself becomes an answer, a shadowy confirmation that something is indeed there, something not yet ready to be revealed. The pyramids stand as monuments of power, but what lies beneath them may be monuments of purpose. To ascend the pyramid may have been a journey toward the divine sun. To descend beneath, it may have been a confrontation with the eternal night. Two halves of a mystery, mirrored above and below. The Osiris shaft is not an anomaly. It is a fragment of a much larger design, a design that suggests the ancients saw beneath the earth not merely as a grave, but as a vault of eternity. Whether it is initiation chamber, tomb of forgotten kings, or archive of a lost civilization, its presence forces us to acknowledge that we have only begun to scratch the surface of Egypt's true history. Perhaps one day the sands will yield more of their secrets. Perhaps one day the labyrinth beneath Giza will open fully, and the lost chambers will tell their story. Until then, they remain sealed in silence, waiting, as they have for thousands of years, beneath the sands. In the silent chambers of Egypt's pyramids, buried beneath tons of limestone and shadow, rest enigmatic relics that defy simple explanation. They are not covered in inscriptions. They do not bear the marks of funerary art, prayers to the gods, or hieroglyphs celebrating the afterlife. Instead, they are mute, dark, and geometrically flawless. Immense stone boxes carved from single slabs of granite, some weighing as much as 70 tons. They are known today as the sarcophagi of the pharaohs. But to those who study them closely, they are not sarcophagi at all. They are enigmas, machines disguised as coffins. The most famous of these boxes lies not in the Great Pyramid, but deep within the Serapeum of Saqqara. This subterranean labyrinth, carved into bedrock, holds dozens of these granite giants. Each box was fashioned with such unearthly precision that modern engineers admit they would struggle to reproduce them today, even with diamond-tipped drills and laser-guided cutters. The interior surfaces are mirror-smooth, their corners meeting at perfect 90-degree angles. When a carpenter builds a chest, it is expected that joints may wobble, edges may warp. But here, in a time supposedly limited to copper chisels and pounding stones, the Egyptians produced tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. And for what purpose? Official archaeology gives us an answer. They were tombs for sacred bulls, the living avatars of the god Ptah. Yet when these massive stone boxes were first opened, they were empty. Not a single mummified bull remained intact within them. No offerings, no carvings, no sign of ritual use. Just silent chambers of granite, sealed with precision lids. It is as though they were built to contain something, but not flesh, not bone, not ritual, something else. To stand before one of these monoliths is to feel a hum of unease. The stone itself is alive with potential. Granite is not inert. It contains quartz crystals capable of piezoelectric reactions, generating tiny electric charges under pressure. What happens when 70 tons of this mineral, cut into flawless geometry, is placed underground in perfect alignment with the Earth's magnetic field? Was it coincidence, or was it design? Could these boxes have been part of a larger system, a machine buried in antiquity, designed not for death but for power? In the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, another box stands alone. Its lid is gone, but its polish and precision remain. Egyptologists call it a coffin, yet no body has ever been found within. Its measurements resonate with curious harmonics, almost as though tuned to a frequency. When sound is introduced within the chamber, the granite amplifies it, reverberating with unusual strength. Some researchers believe this is no accident. At the box, the chamber, and the pyramid itself form a kind of resonance device, an instrument built not to bury a king, but to channel energies invisible to the human eye. Ancient texts never speak of these boxes as coffins. In fact, the Egyptians were meticulous in decorating their true sarcophagi with inscriptions of protection and prayers for safe passage into the afterlife. Why, then, would the most monumental sarcophagi of all the ones requiring the most effort, the deepest mines, the hardest stone, be left utterly bare? The absence of words is itself a statement. It whispers of secrecy, of knowledge too dangerous or too sacred to commit to writing. Perhaps these black boxes were not funerary objects at all, but components of an ancient technology hidden under the guise of religion. Engineers who have examined them note another curiosity. Their surfaces are not only smooth but leveled in a way consistent with high-frequency machining. The corners are so precise that they form perfect right angles, as if cut with modern tools. The polish is so refined that even today, achieving such flatness across such massive surfaces would require specialized instruments. Yet the mainstream insists. Copper chisels, pounding stones, and sand. The narrative strains under the weight of its own improbability. If they were not coffins, what were they? Some suggest energy storage giant capacitors of stone, collecting and releasing subtle earth forces. Others argue they were acoustic devices, amplifying vibrations through harmonic resonance. Still others whisper of containment, that these boxes were prisons, built to lock away something dangerous. Not animals, not relics, but forces or beings humanity no longer dares to name. And perhaps the most haunting possibility of all, that these boxes when combined with the architecture of the pyramids themselves, formed part of a machine, an integrated system designed to harvest, transform, or transmit energy. If this were true, then what we call tombs were never tombs. They were engines. The pharaohs did not build monuments to themselves. They inherited the remnants of a technology far older, far stranger than we are willing to admit. When the Serapeum was rediscovered in the 19th century, dynamite was used to break open some of these sealed granite boxes. The reports speak of silence within, the emptiness more unsettling than any treasure. Imagine after weeks of blasting and clearing, expecting golden relics or sacred remains, only to find nothing. The void inside those boxes spoke louder than any artifact could. A silence engineered, intentional, echoing through time. It is this silence, this absence, that keeps the enigma alive. The Egyptians, masters of recording every detail of their spiritual world, left no inscriptions for these structures. Not a single hieroglyph explains their purpose. And so they remain the black boxes of history, mute, precise, immovable, yet humming with unanswered questions. If they were coffins, why were they empty? If they were machines, who built them, and for what end? Perhaps the pharaohs knew, but they carried that knowledge into the grave. Perhaps these boxes are older than Egypt itself, relics of a civilization that rose and fell before the sands claimed the Nile. Or perhaps their purpose is still waiting, dormant, beneath the stone until we are ready to understand. For centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza has been viewed as a tomb, a monument to the dead, and a stone testament to Egypt's obsession with immortality. But what if we have misunderstood it entirely? What if the pyramid was never meant to honor the afterlife, but to generate power for the living? In the 20th century, Nikola Tesla, one of history's most enigmatic minds, hinted at something profound. While working on his experiments in wireless energy transmission, Tesla became obsessed with the geometry of the Great Pyramid. He noted that its proportions, its placement on the Earth's surface, and even its alignment with the cardinal points were not just architectural choices. They looked to him like engineering blueprints. Tesla himself built his Wardenclyffe Tower in New York based on the same principles, believing the Earth could transmit limitless energy through resonance. And here lies the strange connection. Tesla's tower and the Great Pyramid both harnessed the same idea, the Earth as a natural conductor. Inside the pyramid, the king's chamber becomes more than a burial site. It is made almost entirely of granite, a stone rich in quartz crystals, which are known to vibrate and generate electrical charge under pressure. When researchers measured the acoustics of the chamber, they discovered something astonishing. The room resonates at specific frequencies, amplifying sound and vibration as if it were designed to hum with the energy of the Earth itself. These vibrations are not random. They suggest intention, a tuning fork carved in stone. Now consider the pyramid's position. It sits almost perfectly on the 30th parallel, a latitude where Earth's natural electromagnetic currents are strongest. The base of the pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy we cannot replicate today without satellite guidance. Such precision hints at knowledge of geophysics that modern science only rediscovered in the last century. But here's the deeper question. Why would the ancient Egyptians, or whoever inspired them, want to build a giant resonator of stone? The theory, often called the pyramid power plant hypothesis, suggests that the pyramid captured and amplified natural energy from the Earth itself. The subterranean chamber acted as a pressure regulator, the queen's chamber as a transformation cavity, and the king's chamber as the final resonator. Together, they may have converted Earth's vibrations into usable power, whether electrical, sonic, or something we don't yet understand. Supporters of this theory point to the mysterious absence of soot on the walls of the pyramid. If torches or lamps were used to light the chambers, we would expect to see heavy carbon deposits. But instead, the walls are clean. This has led some to believe the pyramid was once illuminated by a source of light that required no flame, possibly a form of energy transmitted wirelessly, much like Tesla's dream of powering the world without wires. Skeptics argue these claims are nothing but pseudoscience. They remind us that no wires, generators, or obvious technology have ever been found inside the pyramid. Yet even they cannot explain the anomalies, the inexplicable heat signatures detected by modern thermal scans, the strange metallic residues found in hidden shafts, or the way the pyramid seems to interact with Earth's magnetic field. In 2018, a team of physicists in Germany simulated how electromagnetic waves interact with the Great Pyramid. The results were unsettling. Their models showed that the pyramid naturally focuses electromagnetic energy into its internal chambers and beneath its base. In other words, even without copper, wires, or generators, the pyramid behaves like a giant energy funnel. Could it be coincidence? Or is this the remnant of a technology we can no longer recognize? Think about the implications. A civilization in 2500 BCE, harnessing natural power in a way that even Tesla struggled to replicate in the 20th century. This would mean we are not witnessing the tomb of a king, but the ruins of a machine one that may have powered the Nile Valley, lit its temples, or fueled a technology we have forgotten. And then there is the silence of history. Nowhere in Egyptian texts do we find clear instructions or claims about such power. Was this knowledge deliberately hidden? Was it considered sacred, too dangerous to write down? Or was the pyramid already ancient when the Egyptians inherited it, its true purpose lost in the fog of time? Tesla himself once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Those words echo uncannily with the Great Pyramid's mysteries. A structure that hums, resonates, and amplifies, standing not as a tomb, but as a silent testament to a science we no longer understand. And yet, the pyramid still stands. Solid, immovable, timeless. It refuses to give up its secret, as if it is waiting for us to rediscover what we once knew. If it truly was a power plant, then we must ask, who were its engineers? The desert night is a mirror. Above, a canopy of stars stretches across eternity. Below, the great pyramids rise from the sands, their forms not merely monuments of stone, but reflections of the heavens themselves. For centuries, scholars, priests, and seekers of hidden knowledge have argued that these colossal structures are more than tombs. They are star maps carved into the earth. The most striking evidence begins with Orion's belt. The 3 pyramids of Giza do not align neatly in a row, but shift subtly. The smallest sets slightly to the side, just as the 3rd star of Orion's belt appears in the night sky. This deviation is not an accident of engineering, nor the result of imperfect planning. It is a precision echo, a terrestrial mirror of a celestial pattern. The ancients called Orion Osiris, the god of resurrection and eternal life, the deity who embodied both death and rebirth. To build the resting places of kings in alignment with the god of the afterlife was not symbolic. It was a deliberate act of cosmic integration. Pharaohs did not merely wish to be remembered. They wished to ascend, to take their place among the stars. But the alignment does not end there. The Great Pyramid contains shafts carved into its stone heart, narrow passages that serve no obvious architectural purpose. When studied, these shafts point to Sirius, the star of the goddess Isis, and to the pole star, which marked the eternal pivot of the heavens. To the ancient Egyptians, Isis was not merely a consort to Osiris, but the very power of life's renewal. By aligning the pyramid's architecture with her guiding star, the builders may have intended to ensure that the pharaoh's spirit was drawn into her eternal embrace. And then there is the plateau itself. Scholars have noted that the arrangement of monuments at Giza reflects not just isolated constellations, but an entire cosmology. The Nile running beside the pyramids mirrors the Milky Way, the celestial river of the gods. Heaven and earth were not separate in Egyptian thought. They were twin reflections, above and below, star and stone, death, and life. The pyramids were not structures within this duality. They were the bridge. From this perspective, the pyramids can be read not as tombs, but as resurrection machines. Every angle, every shaft, every massive block of limestone functioned as a conduit between the human and the divine. A pharaoh buried within was not entombed, but transformed, launched skyward as a star reborn. The pyramid was the vessel, the cosmic engine that carried his soul across the heavens, ensuring he was not forgotten, ensuring he became eternal. But there is another possibility, one that unsettles both history and tradition. What if these alignments are not the result of religious symbolism alone? What if the pyramids are not simply echoes of the gods, but memories of visitors who came from the stars themselves? The Orion alignment, the shafts aimed at Sirius, the mapping of the sky upon the earth, could these be the fingerprints of a civilization whose origins lie beyond this planet? Mainstream Egyptologists argue that such theories dismiss the genius of ancient builders. The pyramids, they remind us, were born of human hands, sweat, and ingenuity. But even among traditional scholars, the precision of these alignments is difficult to dismiss. The stars chosen were not random. They were central to Egypt's mythos, gods incarnated as light in the sky. Whether divine inspiration or something more, the architects encoded the heavens into their work with unfaltering accuracy. What makes this mystery endure is not only the scale of the monuments, but their endurance across millennia. Civilizations rise and fall, languages shift and vanish, but the stars remain fixed in their eternal watch. The pyramids, too, endure. Together, they form a dialogue across time, stone speaking to star, heaven to earth, the living to the dead. Perhaps that was the ultimate intention, not merely to guide one pharaoh into eternity, but to remind every generation that followed of a truth too vast to be contained in Scripture alone. A truth that required stone and starlight together, a map etched into the very bones of the world. If so, then standing before the pyramids is more than a moment of awe. It is an invitation to remember what the ancients knew, that life, death, earth, and sky are bound in an endless circuit, a pattern mirrored forever in the dance of stars and stone. For centuries, whispers of hidden chambers beneath Egypt's sands have refused to fade. Some come from the mouths of priests, others from stone carved more than 3,000 years ago. All share one haunting theme, that the monuments we know are but surface markers, guardians of secrets too vast to leave in the open. One of the most perplexing records is the so-called inventory stela, now housed in the Cairo Museum. On its worn limestone surface, it makes a claim that unsettles modern Egyptology. It speaks not of the pharaohs who supposedly built the Great Pyramid, but of a house of Osiris, lord of Rosto, lying beneath the very plateau of Giza. Osiris, god of the dead, keeper of cycles, judge of souls, placed not above ground in shining temples, but hidden in chambers below. Egyptologists label the text a pious forgery, a fabrication created by priests of a later dynasty to sanctify their shrines. Yet even as they dismiss it, the stela hints at something deeper. Why would such a claim be made unless memory of something buried beneath Giza still lingered? The ancient Greeks, visiting Egypt long after the pyramids were built, repeated stories they had heard from temple priests, tales of sealed crypts containing scrolls and devices from a forgotten age. Arab chroniclers of the Middle Ages echoed the same. Al-Makrizi, one of Cairo's most meticulous historians, described vast subterranean libraries hidden by the ancients to withstand a deluge. He claimed the pyramids were not tombs at all, but repositories of knowledge, astronomical, medical, and alchemical, sealed in anticipation of a coming cataclysm. Such accounts would be easy to dismiss as legend were it not for the persistence of the theme across centuries. From pharaonic hieroglyphs to Islamic chronicles, the refrain is the same. Beneath the pyramids lies a record of a forgotten chapter of humanity. The modern term for this hidden archive is the Hall of Records, an alleged chamber said to contain the complete story of mankind, stretching back to a lost epoch predating Egypt itself. This idea surged into Western awareness through the trance readings of Edgar Cayce in the early 20th century. Known as the Sleeping Prophet, Cayce described visions of survivors from Atlantis, safeguarding their knowledge in 3 vaults, one beneath the Yucatan, one beneath the sea near Bimini, and one beneath the Great Sphinx of Giza. He spoke of corridors of stone and sealed halls holding not only scrolls, but devices machines from a forgotten age. Critics dismiss Cayce as a mystic whose visions cannot be verified. Yet strangely, his descriptions align with much older Egyptian and Arabic traditions. Modern science, too, has stumbled upon anomalies. In the 1990s, seismic surveys conducted around the Sphinx detected unusual cavities beneath its pause rectangular voids where solid bedrock should be. Egypt's authorities quickly dismissed the findings as meaningless. Yet why did further exploration stop so abruptly? Why were permits to dig near these anomalies suddenly withdrawn? To skeptics, the answer is simple. Archaeology has no room for fantasy. But to others, it feels like a pattern wall of silence raised whenever physical evidence threatens to validate the forbidden texts. The inventory stela, Arab chronicles, Cayce's readings, and seismic anomalies all point in one direction. Beneath Giza may lie something deliberately hidden, deliberately protected. And if such a chamber exists, its discovery would not just challenge academic theories about Egyptian history, it could rewrite the origin story of civilization itself. What, then, is at stake? Imagine archives older than Sumer, older than the Indus Valley, older even than dynastic Egypt. Records describing not myths, but technologies, sciences, and histories wiped clean by time. Such a revelation would collapse the carefully built timeline of human progress. Egyptology, as it stands, rests on the assumption that civilization began in a slow crawl around 3000 BC. But a Hall of Records would prove otherwise. It would suggest that Egypt was heir, not originator, that the pyramids are monuments of inheritance, not invention. It is perhaps for this reason that mainstream academia has worked so hard to sideline these stories. The inventory stela is downgraded to pious fraud. The Arab accounts are dismissed as fanciful medieval speculation. Cayce is categorized as mysticism, and the seismic surveys quietly shelved. To admit even the possibility of such a vault beneath Giza would mean tearing apart the narrative that anchors modern Egyptology. And so the story lingers, half buried in stone and shadow. Archaeologists claim there is nothing beneath. Priests of old swore there was, which is easier to believe, that generations of scribes, priests, and chroniclers across 3 millennia invented the same story for no reason, or that they guarded a truth we are still not ready to face. In the early 1990s, a small robot was sent crawling through the narrow shafts of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Designed not for spectacle, but for precision, this machine inched forward, its camera transmitting images from spaces untouched for thousands of years. At first, the shaft appeared to be nothing more than a passageway, an angled tunnel leading to nowhere. But then, the robot stopped. Its lens caught something startling. A small limestone door, sealed with copper fittings. A door leading deeper still. For archaeologists, the discovery was baffling. Why build a passage so narrow, so hidden, only to block it with a miniature door? And why reinforce that door with copper, one of the most conductive metals known, associated not only with durability, but with energy? The image was more than a curiosity. It ignited a storm of speculation that has not settled to this day. Was this merely symbolic architecture? An elaborate design to confuse grave robbers? Or was there something else, something that had to be sealed away? Some researchers suggested that behind these doors might lie ancient relics, scrolls, or sacred objects deliberately hidden from the eyes of future civilizations. Others took the theory further. What if these were not simple doors, but barriers, concealing some form of mechanism or device from a forgotten age? The Great Pyramid itself has long been called a tomb, but its structure resists easy explanation. Chambers aligned with celestial constellations, tunnels pointing to solstices, shafts leading not to burial chambers, but to nowhere. It feels less like a mausoleum, and more like a machine, a construct with a purpose we still fail to comprehend. And here lies the most provocative question. What if these sealed doors are not the end of a passage, but the beginning of something? Some have speculated about hidden machines, designed to remain untouched until the right moment, concealed by architecture so precise that only in modern times could we even hope to approach them. The shafts themselves are too narrow for humans. Only machines, like the robot sent by Rudolf Gantenbrink in 1993, could ever enter. It is as though the builders anticipated that one day machines would exist capable of crawling into the depths, capable of unlocking what human hands could not. Was this foresight, coincidence, or an echo of knowledge carried through time? When the images of the sealed door were broadcast, the world watched with a strange mixture of awe and dread. What lay beyond? Another chamber? A hidden vault of relics? Or perhaps nothing at all, just stone and the crushing silence of disappointment? For years, permissions to further explore the door were stalled, wrapped in layers of bureaucracy and secrecy. When eventually, another probe drilled a small hole and inserted a fiber optic camera, the images revealed yet another space, another sealed door. A mystery behind a mystery, like Russian dolls of stone. What kind of builders leave a trail of locked gates leading ever deeper into the unknown? If their intention was symbolic, why build it in such a functional, mechanical way, complete with copper fixtures that resemble hinges or conductors? If their purpose was spiritual, why hide it so thoroughly that no human of their own age could ever enter? The contradictions defy the simple explanations of tomb building or ceremonial design. Instead, the impression grows that the pyramid, and perhaps others like it, was built to conceal, to protect, and perhaps to preserve something vital. Some theorists believe these sealed doors may guard text records from a time before recorded history. The fabled Hall of Records, often spoken of in myth, where humanity's earliest knowledge was said to be stored. Others go further still, whispering that behind these barriers could rest devices, mechanisms or technologies deliberately kept from us. The copper fittings invite comparisons to circuits, to conductivity, as though these doors were not symbolic, but functional. Could it be that the ancients not only encoded their cosmology in stone, but also left behind technology designed to endure millennia? The secrecy surrounding the investigations only deepened suspicion. Reports were partial, permissions revoked, footage sometimes withheld. Why should there be so much hesitation, unless what lies behind these sealed doors carries implications that challenge the accepted story of civilization? And yet, perhaps the real enigma is not what was hidden, but why. If a culture goes to such lengths to seal something away, what were they trying to prevent or protect? Were they shielding sacred knowledge from the unworthy, guarding it until a future age? Or were they containing something dangerous, an object or a truth that could destabilize everything we think we know? In myths across the world, there are warnings about doors that should not be opened, chambers forbidden to mortals, and secrets left undisturbed. The story of Pandora's box is only one of many, where curiosity unleashes consequences. Could it be that the Great Pyramid's sealed doors are the architectural form of this warning, constructed not only to intrigue, but to restrain? And still, despite all our advances, the secrets remain sealed. We are left with images of stone blocks, copper handles, and narrow shafts leading into silence. The doors refuse to yield. They stand as mute witnesses to a past that does not wish to explain itself, leaving us to wonder whether we are standing on the brink of revelation or repeating the cycle of curiosity that ancient builders anticipated, a cycle they may have sought to prevent. The machines of our time have reached their limits, and the machines of their time remain hidden. What unites them is the same mystery, the sense that architecture was not only shelter or monument, but a veil drawn tightly over something that was never meant to be seen. Until the doors are opened, and perhaps they never will be, we are left with fragments, a robot's grainy footage, copper fittings glinting in the dark, and the haunting suspicion that beneath the stone something waits. Not merely an artifact, not merely a tomb, but a secret carried through ages, sealed in silence, guarded by stone, and waiting for the future that dares to uncover it. Beneath the shifting sands of Egypt lies not only the story of an ancient civilization, but also a silence, an orchestrated silence. For centuries, whispers have suggested that the greatest discoveries were never unveiled to the public, that a hidden hand ensured only fragments of truth were allowed to escape the desert's grip. These are not the guardians we imagine in myth or carved on temple walls. They are modern figures, archaeologists, governments, secret societies, even military forces, who may have taken on the role of protectors, or perhaps jailers, of forbidden knowledge. The modern history of Egypt's excavations is littered with peculiar gaps. Entire tombs are said to have been uncovered, only to vanish from academic records. Workers rumored to have spoken of vast underground halls, strange inscriptions, or even objects that did not resemble anything from known Egyptian culture, were silenced. Many were told they had been mistaken, that the sands had played tricks on them. Yet, as always, when too many voices repeat the same mistake, it begins to sound less like confusion and more like deliberate omission. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Egyptology was still young. The great rush of excavation filled museums across Europe and America with artifacts. Yet stories persist of certain digs where access was suddenly restricted. Entire sites, fenced and patrolled, declared off limits without clear reason. Some scholars insist these closures were about preservation, about protecting fragile sites from looters. But others whisper that these sites contained anomalies, objects that contradicted the accepted history of Egypt, objects that could shift the foundation of human history if displayed. There are accounts, faint but persistent, of military intervention in archaeological work. Soldiers stationed near excavation sites, armed not against looters, but seemingly against the truth itself. Witnesses speak of crates carried under cover of night, shipped away before any official announcement. To where, no one can say. To a museum basement? To a private collection? Or perhaps, more troublingly, to institutions designed not to reveal knowledge, but to bury it permanently. Then there are the Egyptologists themselves. While the public sees them as seekers of truth, the reality is more complicated. Careers are built on conformity to accepted timelines, accepted narratives. A scholar who suggests that Egyptian civilization is older than the official chronology risks ridicule, funding cuts, and professional exile. This unspoken pressure creates an academic guardianship where uncomfortable evidence is quietly ignored, mislabeled, or dismissed. Was this simply scientific conservatism? Or was it something more deliberate? An understanding that there are truths the world is not meant to see? Secret societies, too, circle these mysteries like vultures in the desert sky. Since the days of Napoleon's expedition, rumors have linked Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and shadowy esoteric orders to the pyramids. For them, the ancient stones were not just relics, but repositories of power. Hidden chambers, sealed texts, and sacred geometries were believed to contain instructions, not merely of history, but of human destiny. If such groups held influence over archaeology, would they not intervene to ensure their secrets remained undisturbed? Perhaps they have already done so. One cannot overlook the role of governments. Egypt, a nation whose economy is deeply tied to tourism, has long had reason to control the narrative. What would happen if tomorrow evidence emerged that the pyramids were not tombs at all, but remnants of a civilization tens of thousands of years older than we imagine? The shock would not only rewrite history books, it could destabilize identities, religions, and national pride. To prevent such upheaval, is it not easier to appoint guardians, to decide what the world should and should not be told? Even modern technology seems unable to pierce this veil. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed voids within the Great Pyramid itself, vast, unexplored chambers. Announced with great fanfare, yet years pass and no further investigation is permitted. Why? The excuses range from preservation concerns to funding delays. Yet the question lingers: if the chambers are real, what lies within them? And who has already decided that we must not know? For those who believe, the guardians are not a metaphor, but a reality. A hidden network that stretches across academia, politics, and esoteric societies, united by a single purpose: to keep the ultimate secrets of the pyramids sealed. Perhaps these guardians fear that humanity is not ready for what lies beneath. Perhaps they protect truths too dangerous, too destabilizing for our fragile world. Or perhaps, more cynically, they hoard this knowledge as a form of power, a currency of the elite, forever out of reach to ordinary humanity. And yet, the guardian's silence is imperfect. Whispers leak. Photographs surface briefly before disappearing. Testimonies emerge from workers, soldiers, and even scholars who could not carry their secrets to the grave. These fragments, scattered and incomplete, create a mosaic of possibility. A suggestion that the pyramids guard not only the past, but also a present struggle between revelation and concealment. In this struggle, the guardians are not only keepers of history, but sculptors of reality itself. By choosing what to reveal and what to suppress, they shape the story of humanity. And like all stories, the one we know may only be the version permitted by those in power. The true narrative, the one written deep within the stone, remains locked away, guarded by silence, and by the invisible hands of those determined to keep it so. The sands of Egypt are eternal, but so too are the forces of secrecy. As tourists gaze upon the pyramids, as scholars debate their function, as seekers dream of lost wisdom, the guardians remain. Unseen, unnamed, and unacknowledged, yet always present. Watching, deciding, ensuring that some doors, once sealed, are never opened. The Great Pyramids rise from the desert not merely as remnants of an ancient past, but as questions carved in stone. For thousands of years, they have defied time, weather, and the decay that erases empires. Even now, they seem less like ruins and more like machines waiting to be switched back on. Every block, every angle, every alignment suggests intention far beyond tombs or monuments. They whisper of purpose. They whisper of design. And they whisper of something humanity has not yet dared to fully confront. For generations, the official narrative has been simple. The pyramids were tombs for kings. A story repeated so often, it hardened into truth. Yet no pharaoh was ever found within the Great Pyramid of Giza. No inscriptions glorify the afterlife of a ruler. Instead, we find shafts that point precisely toward Orion, toward Sirius, toward the very heart of the stars. These are not the blueprints of death. They are coordinates, directions to somewhere else, perhaps to something else. The theory that the pyramids are gateways is not new. Ancient Arab scholars once called them the granaries of Joseph. Others believed they contained maps of the world or secrets of alchemy. Modern researchers see them as power plants of stone, designed to resonate with the earth itself. The limestone casing, now stripped, once shimmered white under the desert's sun, reflective, radiant, perhaps even conductive. Deep within, the so-called king's chamber hums with a frequency that is not accidental. Sound reverberates through its granite walls, as though the chamber itself was tuned, like an instrument meant to channel energy not of this earth. Imagine for a moment what this suggests. The pyramid as more than a tomb. The pyramid as a bridge between matter and spirit, between earth and sky, between the finite life of humanity and something eternal. To the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end, but a transformation, a passage through the underworld to join the stars. Could the pyramids have been more than symbolic? Could they have been machines designed to guide the soul beyond the body, to transmit consciousness itself across the void? The shafts aligned to Orion's belt and Sirius are not random. Orion, the celestial hunter, was tied to Osiris, the god of rebirth and eternal life. Sirius was linked to Isis, the mother goddess who resurrects. The union of Osiris and Isis was the promise of immortality. Were these shafts not just for air, but channels through which the soul was projected, carried on invisible streams of energy to the stars? If so, the Great Pyramid is not a tomb, it is a launchpad for eternity. This idea is not confined to mysticism. In the 20th century, scientists studying pyramid resonance discovered anomalies that defy simple explanation. Electromagnetic fields concentrated within the chambers. Ultrasound frequencies amplified and sustained. Even water placed within the structure showed altered molecular properties. Was this accidental? Or was it engineering far ahead of its time, a technology of stone that harnessed natural forces we are only beginning to rediscover? But if the pyramids are machines, who built them and for what purpose? Were they the product of a forgotten civilization, one erased by time, yet leaving behind its crowning achievement? Or were they designed under the guidance of something even older, something beyond the earth? Ancient texts spoke of the star people, the Needers, the shining ones who came from the heavens to teach humanity. Perhaps the pyramids were their message or their doorway back. And then there is the possibility most terrifying of all, that the pyramids are not monuments to what humanity once was, but blueprints for what humanity might become. They are instructions encoded in stone on how to transcend flesh, how to store and transmit energy, how to move between dimensions of existence. We look at them as relics, but what if they are prototypes? What if beneath the sands lies not only history, but destiny? The desert keeps its secrets well. Beneath the Sphinx, seismic scans have revealed cavities still unexplored. Within the bedrock under Giza, tunnels and chambers stretch into darkness. And though excavations continue, much remains sealed, protected, hidden. Ancient Egyptian priests swore that those who disturbed the knowledge buried there would unleash forces beyond control. Perhaps that is why so much remains untouched, not out of ignorance, but out of fear. If the pyramids are gateways, then what lies on the other side? Is it the afterlife promised in myth, a passage to the stars, or something stranger still, the key to contact with civilizations beyond human understanding? The idea chills because it suggests we are not only students of history, but participants in a story that has not yet ended. The pyramids may not be monuments to the dead. They may be invitations to the living. In the end, we must ask, what are we standing before when we gaze at those immense silhouettes against the horizon? Are they tombs? Power plants? Stargates? Perhaps they are all these things at once. Perhaps they are more than we can name. What is certain is this: the pyramids are not silent. They are speaking in stone and star, in resonance and alignment. They are waiting. And so the question remains, forbidden yet unavoidable. Were the pyramids built to remember the dead or to awaken the living? Were they monuments of finality or the first blueprints of eternity? What is buried beneath them may not only rewrite the past, it may redefine humanity's future. The sands shift, the wind moves, the pyramids endure, and still they wait for the moment when humanity is ready to understand what they truly are.